simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Two, check. Hello. Two. Hello. Hello, chat. That's Rob, the streamer who always streams from the same setup. That's right. That's exactly right. Uniformity, consistency. This is what you can expect from this program. That's absolutely right. Hello, Off-Grid J. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Grimlock Fly, for the 100 bits. Thank you, Grimlock Fly. I was just about to log on and like chastise people because I used to like, you know, start the stream and then there'd be like all kinds of chats and there'd be all kinds of stuff going on and then I would show up. What was it today? There was like 4 measly chats and I was just about to come on and chastise people for abandoning me. But I guess it's acceptable now. It's filled up the screen. I guess it's all right. I was about to give you the what for though, is what we call it. I was about to start hooting and hollering and yelling at everybody. Negging. It was here, so chat was 99% strength. That's right. I threw nickels at the screen like a boss. Grimlock, I appreciate it. That was nice. That was saving the chat from a real chat-stizing. Huh? The ultimate neg is true. I only would have said something rude. Well, that's our dynamic, Dick Penderin. That's our dynamic. It's because we can't take your China support anymore.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good
I'm
old
chasing
Rob
away
to
people,
talk you through
potential
all this.
community members.
Any new and exciting snacks consumed recently?
I'm chasing away potential community members due to my critical support for the People's Republic of China. New and exciting snacks consumed recently. Thank you, GMO Radio, for the 37 months of Tier 1. I don't know. I think I've talked already about Nerds Gummy Clusters. How that's been a game changer for me. I also got last night some Skittle gummies, both the regular and sour variety. Those are pretty nice. Trying to get Rob to do the Dua Lipa DC challenge. I mean, I have my DC right here as well. I just don't have any pickles or jalapenos right now. I would try it. Like I said, I think it seems okay. I don't think that's going to be a regular beverage for me, but it's definitely something that I would give it a try for sure. No, I didn't only just find Nerds off Grid, Jay. It's what I found is Nerds Gummy Clusters. Okay, it's a new product. Okay? So no, I don't live in the 1700s. This is a brand new product and has changed the whole candy landscape. I would definitely try the DC challenge. These Walls by Dua Lipa is one of my favorite songs. I don't know if I know that one. I've probably heard it. I quite like Houdini. All right, I'm a Brit. We don't get that kind of stuff. No, instead of candy, you just have, we'll go down to the shop for some jellied eels. That's your little treat. Some nice jellied eels from the corner shop, isn't it? Isn't it? There's candied eel embryos. Delicious. You can enjoy them with my crumpets. This is my understanding of what British culture is. Nice little handful of candied eel embryos. Little snack. Little sweet little treat. I've Googled scrapple. I will not be lectured about British food by any North American. Honestly, like, I joke around, but I think British cuisine is actually, I don't think it's like, in terms of like global cuisine, I don't think it really ranks up there. Like, people are saying Brits conquered the world because they're all mad about their food. There's certain British staples that I enjoy, like one of those like savory pies at the pub, a savory pie and chips at the pub. That's nice. Some gravy on there. Bangers and mash. That's all right. That's all right. You know, there's plenty of things to enjoy there. The pea wet. I don't know about the pea wet. That I would probably draw the line there. The smack bomb pay wet, is that what it was called in Wigan? I've actually spent time in Wigan as well. I never had a smack bomb pay wet though when I was there. And in fact, I wish that I had. I wish that I had tried a smack barm pea wet when I was spending time in Wigan. I've spent multiple nights in the town of Wigan, UK. Never had a smack barm pay wet though.
Wigan kebab. Now that's what you call a butty. I've been hearing about the Wigan kebab for years, and now I'm finally here in Wigan at the Trawler Man, one of the best chippies. I'm gonna go and try one. Let's go. Right, mate, I've been told to come in and order a Wigan kebab, but I don't actually know what it is.
You don't know what a Wigan kebab is?
No.
Butter, burn, meat and potato pie on. You're in heaven.
Carbs on carbs on carbs.
Absolutely.
That's what I like to see.
Go on.
Yeah, go on, mate. Is it a popular dish?
40% of people come in. It's quick and ready.
And did he call it a Wigan kebab, or is it pie bomb, or what did he ask
Wigan
for?
kebab.
Wigan kebab.
Wigan kebab.
Class, go on then.
There you go, lad.
Sounds
So
like that.
enjoy, lad.
Wigan kebab. That actually looks class. Mate. That is sensational. That is actually spot on, mate. So I'm just looking at the menu here, mate. So I can get a smack for 40p.
Yeah.
So what is smack?
It's well known in Wigan. Smack, burn, pea wet.
Smack barn pea wet.
Yeah. It's a cheap treat for a kid. Some grown-ups get them. But you're looking at 80p. You've got some hot potato, batter on, salt vinegar.
What's pea wet, mate?
What's pea wet? In Wigan, it's as good as gravy. It's the water off the peas. You get a few peas in as well.
Yeah.
You don't. It's free. Just moisture
It's
chips
the pea wet.
Oh, you smack.
I think I've got room for a little bit more, mate. Can I get a smack barn pea wet?
No problem at all. Get your pay wet. There you go, young man. Enjoy.
Cheers, mate. Smack barn pea wet. Gotta be honest.
It's the wet from the
Look at
pea.
this pea wet. This is knocking me a bit sick. It looks fucking minging. Let's see what it's chatting. It's got a hefty dollop of pea wet there, and it's actually quite nice. There's no pea, it's just wet. But you can taste
There's
the
no
pea.
pea,
Oh,
it's
Wigan
just
akimbo
wet.
with the smack barn pea wet and the Wigan kebab. And I don't know which one I prefer, if I'm honest. So that's the Wigan kebab. Obviously a lot more meaty and no peas. See, the smack barn pea wet.
I feel like I would need some kind of sauce on the Wigan
Smack barn pea
kebab.
wet.
though.
I'm sorry to all the Wigan kebab lovers, but it's got to be the smack barn pea wet. I think I've got room for a little bit more, mate.
Babby's head. Oh,
What's a babby's head?
steak pudding.
Steak pudding.
Steak pudding. Well, we're in here around here. Air puddings at best.
And why is it called a babby's head?
They favour them. They've got very similar to look at.
So, babby,
Yeah.
so when you crack open a baby's head, that's what it looks like inside.
Yeah, but don't do it.
So this babby's head to go.
Yeah, I've got to tell you something about that. The babby's head actually comes with chips and gravy and stuff as well.
If I was getting my
messing up.
Wigan kebab, I would need some kind of sauce with the gravy on there. or
3 course
something.
Wigan meal. Oh,
There you go.
cheers, fella. Babby's head.
Say notice,
Because
it's
it
a
looks like
baby's head.
And if you crack. Now we're talking. That's a serious pie, that. That is a serious pudding. So I've had a Wigan kebab, a smack bomb, and a babby shed. I'm officially a Wiganer now. John Paywet's on that, mate?
I think after the inaugural TRRS meetup in DPRK at the Rayugyong Hotel, I think this should be number 2, the second annual. The second annual TRRS meetup symposium in Wigan, UK. The first one is at the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The second one, Wigan, UK. We're all going to sit around and enjoy a nice smack barm pay wet together. This is how we bond. There's no peas, it's just wet. We charter a flight directly from Pyongyang to whatever that is, exactly. We'll be the only people in history to travel to these 2 locations back to back. Some wet pea with the boys, exactly. I'll do a lot of things, but I refuse to go to Wigan. I'll see you in the DPRK. It's safer. Dave. I'm a Wigan veteran. I've hung out in Wigan many times. Many times I've hung out in Wigan. I know some people from there. I'm sure they're still around. It's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful, magical place. Wigan. I'm already warm. We're going to be wigging out. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm intrigued by the idea of just a roll with a pie inside, but you gotta have something else on there. You need some kind of like lubrication to help that go down. I feel like it would just be really like mush, like dry, wouldn't it? I don't know. Maybe I am just weak. Maybe I am a weak man. Just the classic full English breakfast as well. That's something I enjoy there in the UK. UK culinary delight. A bit dry, innit? That's right. That's what I'd be saying if I was there. Hopefully the pie contains some gravy and they butter the bap. I would hope so, yeah. I would hope that bap's getting buttered. It's all about the black pudding. That was one thing, Dave, I could never do. I have sampled a lot of British cuisine. I've spent a lot of time in the UK. That was one thing I could never do. I couldn't do the black pudding. It's only pig's blood, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if I can do that. A bap is a bread roll. It's got regional variants, and the Northwest, it's a barm cake. Exactly, and that's what leads to the smack barm pay wet. The smack, it's just fun to say. I've not thought about this for a while, but it is just fun to say. The smack bomb pay wet, innit? I want to try it. Let's throw some words around and create a dish based on that. Kind of seems like that's what they were doing, wasn't it? Well, we're off to a rip-roaring start here on this episode. Yeah, I kind of wish I did have some pickles and jalapeno for my DC. I want to try it. Again, I don't like... I'm not expecting that to be like a regular rotation. Like, oh, I'm really thirsty. I'm going to have some Diet Coke with pickles and jalapenos in it. I can't imagine that being in my regular rotation, but I would give it a try for sure. What is this Pickle DC thing? It's something that popular pop artist Dua Lipa was doing. Let me see. I'm trying to find the clip here.
Step 1, Diet Coke. Yum. And then pickle juice. And a couple pickles from my hand. Okay. And then some jalapeno sauce. Everyone's staring at me. And maybe a couple of jalapenos. The lady in the back is like, what the hell is she doing? Give it a little mix up. You want to try?
I was like, randomly not bad.
Good. Oh, that one's really pickly.
Makes it nice. Maybe we'll add some more.
They don't seem convinced.
Maybe it's like a science thing.
Wait, how far can we push it? Yeah. That is.
She likes it. She likes it. I don't know. I want to give it a shot. I'll tell you what, Chad. I'll try it on. I'll try it next week. I don't have any pickles or jalapenos right now. This weekend, I'll procure some pickles and jalapenos, and I'll do the challenge live on this stream. I'll do it like on Tuesday. I don't think I'm going to be streaming Monday because it's Canadian Thanksgiving. But next week, I will do the challenge. I will do the Diet Coke and pickle and jalapeno challenge. I don't know a ton of Dua Lipa's music. I do like Houdini. That's a pretty good song. 50 sub gold doing love of the game, Kijiji. Love of the game. It's just purely for entertainment purposes and purely for my own curiosity as well. Purely for my own curiosity and your entertainment. Yeah, I don't know Dua Lipa that well. I'll tell you I talked a little bit about Chapel Roan and how I got really into her album. I was actually just taking a shower earlier and I listened to Good Luck Babe and Hot to Go in the shower. Very good shower songs to get your day started. The other pop album that I'm really heavily into right now is that Sabrina Carpenter album. Is anyone on that? That album is really good. It's really, really good pop music. Is anyone else on the Sabrina Carpenter train? I'm all the way on board with this now. I'm possibly in the station, but the train hasn't arrived yet. I think I've heard one of the Sabrina Carpenter songs in a radio mix, but not the whole album. One of my favorite genres of music is like bands from the 70s that like transitioned into 80s music and incorporated all these new sounds. And I think like that Fleetwood Mac album, Tango in the Night, is the ultimate example of that kind of genre. Fleetwood Mac, who did Rumors and of course all this classic kind of bluesy rock stuff in the past, making this kind of more 80s pop synthy album, Tango in the Night, with songs like Everywhere on it and Tell Me Lies and stuff like that. I love that. And I really like Sabrina Carpenter has that really nice mix of like country singer-songwriter thing, but mixed with this pop production. It's really enjoyable. There are some songs that are more pop, like Espresso. That's like the real, like kind of more electro pop type song. But then there's like songs that have really this kind of country it's just like this little country undercurrent. I wouldn't say it's a Taylor Swift thing. The big song that she's like is Espresso is the big hit, and Please 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 is a really fucking good song. And it's got a little bit of an edge to it. It's got this like, if you know the song, it's got this hook like with the F-bomb in it, and it's like it kind of gives it a little more of a different flavor. It's not quite as bland. And listen, I like Taylor Swift's music. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But like it's good. There's a little bit of an edge to it, even though it's very nice to listen to. It's very poppy. There's this other song on the album, Juno, which I really like. There's a bunch of good songs on this album. I would really recommend it, honestly, if you like that kind of pop music. If you like that kind of pop music with the undercurrent of it's a very kind of like country vocal style with this kind of pop production. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Well, I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. I don't think I'm in the target audience, dude Zoot, but you know, it's well written, well produced pop music. You know, I like that. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. I haven't really been keeping up on a lot of her new music, but I really do like this Sabrina Carpenter album. That I give that my full recommendation. If you're into that kind of thing, not everyone is. Please, Please, Please by Sabrina Carpenter, though. Very, just delightful. What a delightful song. And apparently she's dating that Irish actor Barry Keoghan, and he's in the music video.
Right. Okay, let's go. Diet Coke.
Is that the guy from the Lucky Charms box? Yeah, that's right. That's who it is.
A little bit of jalapeno juice. Dill pickle juice. Pickles in. Jalapenos in. And then literally top that up with some more Coke and just a little bit more juice. Okay,
that seems like a lot.
Seriously?
I feel like he added in too much there. That felt like too much.
Chilipa, for God's sake, girl! You'll ruin your vocal cords!
That felt like too much to me. I'm gonna try it. I don't care. I'm undeterred here. I'm undeterred. I'm very intrigued by this. I'm gonna try it. It was the perfect amount for engagement purposes. That's right. Yeah. So the next week, folks, mark it in your calendars. I'm going to procure some pickles and jalapenos this week. We're going to make this Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'm going to give it a try. You think Dua Lipa has had pee wash? What's pee wash? Is that like the pee wet? We already went over this. Is that like the same thing? Mommy's a jar of Lao Gan Ma with nerds in it. That I don't think so. I think you should invent your own communist promoting challenge, Rob. Okay, my challenge that I'm going to do is that everyone should go out and murder their landlord. That's the challenge. That was a really short beep. It was really hard to do that little bit. Just an obvious comedy bit there, if anyone's watching. Just a little comedy bit. We like doing bits and gags and jokes and japes on this program. Don't you still owe us a song? Yeah, technically I do, yeah. Obviously a little comedy bit. I do still owe you a song. I don't know when that's going to be, honestly. I'm not sure. I guess I could do Please, Please, Please. That would be a good song. But there's kind of like a modulation that happens in the second verse that I don't know if I could do that. Rob's viral Doing the Chinese Revolution Challenge sweeps Canada. Trudeau flees. Teens and raptures. The latest teen trend you have to watch out for. Called the Cultural Revolution. The Cultural Revolution Challenge. Song plus jalapeno DC plus pay wash night. Are your kids doing the Chinese Revolution? Here's the special texting language. When they say SST, it means struggle session tonight. We're going to meet up later for an LT. It means landlord tribunal. Oh, no. Oh, no. You got to watch out. Your kid might be getting pulled into this. BRB, bringing revolution back. When they say LOL, they mean later we overthrow the liberals. Exactly. You got to watch out for this, folks. You got to watch out. Your teen could be preparing to do a Chinese style revolution. And you wouldn't even know. It's a harmless phase, says Cardiff area psychologist and Xi Jinping fan Dick Penderin. That was a funny stream yesterday, wasn't it? I think it's funny when you have folks in here that get a little argumentative. You know, I obviously love you, chat, and I like hanging out with you. It is funny when we have people like realize like what's going on here. What community? What is this? What's happening around me? I do find it very, very funny when I start to present a little bit of different information in a very like wholesome, non-threatening way, and I start to like present some slightly different information from what someone's like. Whatever bubble they're in, and they just like they react in this kind of panic. I do find that kind of funny, isn't it? Ah, gotta get out of here. Yeah, one person immediately fleeing, the other staying and arguing for hours. It's nice to know that Twitch debate perverts come in all forms. Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Chad. I hope the week went well. Subby rollin' okay. I totally know what that's a reference to, Up the Reds. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I believe he's still arguing in the chat from yesterday's stream, and some say he's still arguing to this day. Yeah, oh no, it's a tanky. I gotta go back to. We didn't even just speak some of these names into existence. I haven't heard from that guy in a long time. Is that guy even still doing stuff? I mean, I guess he must be. Oh, the Subaru. Okay, up the Reds. The Subi. Okay. I'm still not up in the lingo. It's rolling okay, yeah. It's survived now multiple trips back and forth to Toronto. I'm going to commute every day to my kid's school to pick him up. It's rolling good. Keep on rolling. In the immortal words of Frederick Durst, great American poet. We in the Subi Club together. It's a manual. It's not a manual. It's an automatic. I can drive manual. That's how I learned to drive on my mom's Civic hatchback, which was a standard. I like driving standard. I don't know. I didn't want to be like in standard trying to parallel park on like frozen Montreal hills in the January. You know, I just didn't want to deal with that. And I'm not drifting around, you know, even though I do have like a car that's used for like rally racing. I'm not drifting around the streets, you know. I don't really need it. It's more for like commuting my kid, you know, commuting to Toronto for other purposes. It's not for anything fancy like that. Manual is a young man's game. That's kind of how I feel about it. Yeah. It would be kind of fun to do like a rally course and drift around that. That would be kind of enjoyable. It would be fun to do, but I would probably die, which I don't want. I would like to avoid that. If possible. I think it's almost time to get my hair cut, Chad. Look at me. This is outrageous. I have been listening to that Stand audiobook. I'm almost finally at the end of that. I'm like 41 hours into that out of the 46 hours. I think I was successfully able to skip most of the parts that I hate. The Stand gets way more enjoyable when you just skip all the Mother Abigail stuff, which is just so fucking racist, and it just causes me physical pain. Every single thing involving that character. I just got to the whole ending in Vegas, the Hand of God and all that stuff, which is pretty controversial with Stand heads and Stand fans. I don't totally hate that part. I don't totally hate it, but show your kid Burnout Revenge, really teach them how to drive. This is how me driving stick would look like. What a dainty touch. He's very gentle. He's got the little pinky extended. How classy. Very classy. I had a manual 87 Camry. That sounds like a badass car. Dakadoon. Did you play like Def Leppard or like White Snake and blast out of that? How a gentleman switches gears. A true gentleman. The dainty little gear shift. I only drove manual a few times. Yeah, it's how I learned to drive, and I did my first driving test like on a manual, and I failed it, which I thought I did pretty well, but not well enough. I made enough little mistakes that I failed it. My mom tears at the gear stick like she's trying to shake a TIE fighter on her 6, but she's a really good chauffeur. Maybe she is. And she just didn't tell you about it because she was trying to protect you and didn't want you to be scared. Maybe she was shaking somebody. Putting all the power to rear deflectors. That's right. Yep. No, but the car was a good purchase, honestly. Now that I've done these other repairs that I had to do on it, which were quite unfortunate, but it seems to be in pretty good shape now. I do quite enjoy my Subaru Impreza. That was a good call.
Good day, this is...
I'm sorry. Just looking at a video from Dimitri Lascaris that might be a decent video to watch today. Dimitri Lascaris, former guest of the show, talking to Jeffrey Sachs. That could be a nice video to watch today. I remember just the fact that I had Dimitri Lascaris on this show one time. Someone like tried to cancel me repeatedly. One of these like far right watch because they thought that Dimitri Lascaris is like a undercover Putler operative or something. And the fact that I dared to speak to him about the war in Ukraine. I had repeatedly someone telling me I was some kind of like red fash adjacent Putler propagandist. Putler ops are so dangerous, exactly. Anytime you're saying anything that goes against a State Department approved narrative, you're doing Putler propaganda, and it's very scary for everybody. You ever say what year, make it was? I may not have been here for it. It is a 2014 EM Trio. It's a 2014. Hang on just one moment, okay? Just, oh gosh. Put on something else here. Here's these guys. Look at this bullshit for a few minutes.
This pickle recipe come
okay?
with
I just gotta do one thing.
If it does, then it's a 11
Just
out of 10
wondering,
on
asking
that.
for a friend.
4 Diet Coke enthusiasts stand before you. So we, of course, have to try the viral way to do Diet Coke, like Dua Lipa.
I want to live my life like Dua Lipa all the time. She's always on vacation, dating hot people, and this might be the hack. This could be the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Are we excited?
Kelly and I are Diet Coke stans.
Okay.
We love an afternoon DC.
I don't want to ruin Diet Coke for myself.
I'm a little. I love pickles. I don't love spicy.
Do you guys do heat?
Sometimes I'll do heat. I don't normally like to mix a diet. Like I won't do Diet Coke with alcohol because Diet Coke is so sacred to me.
Okay.
So I don't. This
Yeah.
could ruin it for me, and I am scared of that.
This is kind of giving me like it's gonna be the new Bloody Mary.
Ooh.
Oh. Okay. So
That's
you're excited.
I'm excited.
Emphasis
Okay.
on the
I
bloody.
have so little to live for.
My, the acid reflux is going to be refluxing.
Ooh.
I've already
That
had
is the most beautiful sound.
That was stunning.
Did you guys watch the video of Dua Lipa doing this?
And then pickle juice. Then a couple pickles from my hand. Okay. And then some jalapeno sauce. Everyone's staring at me.
I did watch the video, and what I noticed is that she was very light on the juice.
And now you do pickle juice.
Okay, so this is the pickle juice. It is what kind of pickles is it? Kosher dill, one of my favorites.
Okay.
Love.
So, Dula Peep, can you see this? Okay. Dula did like a little like this.
Like the tiny. Ooh, I shouldn't have swirled around like that.
Oh, well, I'm gonna mix it.
She's like our Diet Coke Dula now.
Wow.
Yep, get it in there.
Oh, I feel like that was a
Do
lot.
we need to spin it like that?
I don't know. I was following Allie's lead.
I don't know. I think we have to mix.
Oh.
Kelly.
You're so
I did
nervous.
not
You're
need
like,
to do that.
you're like, I don't want to ruin Diet Coke.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
That was pretty. That was.
That
Wait,
was
did
good.
I actually?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, now
You just ruined this.
Dula took the jalapeno juice,
jalapeno,
and
okay.
you can do that first because
Okay.
I don't want to put a lot in.
You guys are gonna pour that one.
See, I might go heavier on the jalapeno.
Ooh. Okay, that was good. A little bit.
itsy.
Okay.
Oh,
Was that too much?
that was a lot. I mean, you said you didn't want to do a lot. That
And
was a
then you're gonna
lot.
pour that for me. I don't want to make another mess.
She's gonna go all in on it for you. Oh, she put some seeds in there for you.
Oh, and then we have to garnish.
Okay, sorry about that. Hello.
Your little splashes are so cute.
Oh my God, thank you.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
go with a little bit of
Here. Oh, Kelly gets two.
That guy earlier used way too much
Those are
juice.
some
I agree.
hefty ones that I got.
Okay, and then we're gonna take a pickle. Yeah.
I'm trying it,
The
chat.
pickle can be what we stir with.
That's what I
I'm
was
telling you,
told, but I
next
don't know
week
how
I'm
to
doing the
stack it.
Diet Coke
Dula
Pickle
did a
Challenge next week.
picks.
I don't have any pickles right now.
Full on
Do you think
spears.
Dua
I'm just
Lipa
gonna
ever has had
yeah.
a fried pickle in her life?
I feel like it's just, you have to have like a
Has she ever seen Jersey
low
Shore? Because
quotient of pickle
she loves
juice.
the
I think
fried
that's the
pickle.
thing.
This is like witch's brew.
Aww, look how big.
Oh wait, y'all.
ASMR.
I'm doing it, Red Wizard.
Oh, this
It is kind of cute.
Okay.
It looks like there's like an octopus coming
It's
out
cute.
of my.
The smell is going kind of together. Okay.
I love
cheers.
it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
Cheers, guys. This looks-
You ready?
Okay.
Ooh.
I don't like it. Oh my god.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it.
F***ing disgusting. Wait, that's really bad. Dula Pete.
What?
The f***?
What
No,
did
that's
you
really
get?
gross.
What are you getting?
I'm getting
Wait, maybe we're not fully mixed because
It seems like
mine
there's
was
a
very
big
diverse.
diversity of
Mine's very
opinion on
pickly.
this.
No, mine's all pickle.
All pickle.
Mine's all pickle.
Okay, let's put more. We have to do more. More jalapeno juice.
Why?
I just think we have to.
I'm trying it. Okay? I'm trying it. We're doing this. I will tell you what I think. I'm kind of intrigued. Like I said, I've said repeatedly, I don't think it's going to be some kind of like, it's not going to replace it's going to be a regular everyday thing. I'm fully willing to try it though. So you're a pickle hater, Red Wizard. Okay, well if you're a pickle hater, then I mean, you know, that obviously sounds not very pleasant. I am a big pickle enjoyer. Very big pickle enjoyer over here. Pickle in the sandwich, DC in the glass, not that complicated. But you eat the sandwich and you drink the Diet Coke and it's very satisfying. So why not combine? That's right, Godzone Drunk. I said I am a big time pickle enjoyer. That's exactly right. Jalapeno juice though, why with soda? I don't see the flavor combo. I don't know, just a little spicy. Make it a little spicier. I don't know, a little more acidic. I'm going to give it a try. Why not put the DC in the sandwich in the blender and drink that? Well, I think we all know that that's not the same thing. I think we're all aware that that's not the same thing at all. So pickle tasting stream. What is that thing? The chamoy pickles. What's chamoy? I've seen that as like a TikTok challenge. That was the whole thing that I didn't really get, even as a pickle enjoyer. There was like a chamoy pickle with like sour candy. People were doing that. But what is chamoy?
First time trying the chamoy pickle. Spicy ass pickle. Look at the girth on that. It got bumps and stripes and everything. I gotta bite the tip off. You gotta gut it, put the protection on, and we just stuff it.
You're stuffing it with like gummy worms.
I don't really understand chamoy candy. I'm willing to try it. Candy just shouldn't be spicy. You stuff it with Takis. Y'all be seasoning y'all candy.
Takis,
more
candy,
chamoy.
and chamoy pickle.
This is what I'm working with. This is huge. That's a weird combo. It's actually pretty good. It's actually not too bad. It's eatable. Very sweet. I can taste the spice kick in my throat. It's like a spicy sour. That was a weird concoction of things. Probably wouldn't eat it again with Takis. First time trying the chamoy pickle.
That I'm not so sure about. It's eatable is always the kind of review I'm looking for in my food. I don't hate it. I just don't know. That I don't know about. I'll try the Diet Coke thing, but I don't know about that. Anyway, should we like do something serious here at some point? You know? At some point, should we like do something serious, or are we just talking about pickles and candy and stuff all day? This feels like a slow day. There's not a lot of people rolling through here. It feels like a lazy Friday over here. This is serious. Like take a nap? I would love to take a nap, actually. I actually put I got some like new sheets, and I put them on my bed last night. And you get the freshly washed, freshly dried sheets, and they're like flannel sheets. The temperature's getting a little colder. Got some flannel sheets, freshly washed. Threw that on the bed last night. Very comfy. It was very, very comfy. What if you did an IRL stream? I can do that sometime. I mean, it was fun to do that at the McGill encampment that time. It's just logistically, it's difficult. Logistically, it's tough with like the internet and that stuff. Go to the Mexican side of Montreal and get yourself a mango chamoy pop and have your world changed. I'd like to give it a try. I would definitely give it a try. Just looking at what's on Twitter that maybe we could like take a look at. Not me going to Montreal with a backpack of candy from Tijuana. Well, if you ever want to bring a bunch of Tijuana candy to Montreal, I'd be happy to sample some. We Mexicans love lemon juice and hot sauce and everything, including our candy. You know what I'd really like to try, God's Own Drunk, is that like corn, the street corn with the mayo and all the stuff on it. I really want to try that. I think that's right up my alley. I think it's right up my alley, the corn with all the mayo and all the different things on it. Eyote? Is that what it's called? That looks so good. I really haven't spent a lot of time in Mexico. I would love to spend more time in Mexico. I was just talking about that the other day. I would really I would really like to be able to spend some more time in Mexico. I'd really like to be able to speak Spanish too. I tried to do Duolingo Spanish for a while, but I didn't feel like it was. I didn't keep up with it. Only the double L makes the Y sound. Okay, so it's just the same. So it's elote. Is that it? Dude, it's so good. Hell yeah. Sometimes I'll just eat a can of corn prepared like that. That sounds great. There's an elote guy that goes down my street daily. I love that. I really want to try it. We're just getting it in a cup.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be making one of my favorite street foods down in Mexico.
Uno, por favor. Uno? Sí. Say one. Sí. Guess what I said?
I thought it was hotter. Just a little bit of each.
Queso un poco. Poquito, sí. Sí. Gracias. Sí, sí, sí. Más, más. Yeah. Sí.
Hell yeah.
Oh, you can. Gracias, señor. ¿Cuánto? 20 pesos. 20
Maybe they do
pesos.
Dakadun.
Yeah, 20.
Maybe they do. If they do, I don't know how to. Wouldn't know where to get them. I'm sure they must though somewhere.
Gracias, señor. Sorry.
Oh, it looks so good.
I don't know. Those are the, yeah. Let me try some.
Can you get some cilantro on there as well? I'm sure that would be yummy. Oh yeah, I mean there's plenty of Mexican places, so you must be able to get it. There's a couple of places. It's just the most Mexican places are on the other side of town from where I am, so I don't get to go to them very often. But there's a couple of spots. I'm going to seek this out, I think. Triangulate. Don't triangulate me, bro. Come on. Don't do me like that. Don't triangulate me. Okay. Well, that's something I'm going to have to give a try to. Everyone put that in your Where Does Rob Live workbook. I would be able to talk about that more if there wasn't so many weird freaks out there. Very good. I've got Rob down to the north of the American continent. You're getting closer. You're getting closer. A little too close. I thought Rob was in Brazil. Ja. He lives in Australia, right? No, if I lived in Australia, I think there's a way to flip myself upside down, but I just don't think I want to go through all the effort. Let's just not worry about it. Let's just not worry about it. It's not important. Oh, wait. If I lived in Australia, I'd be like this. Hello, mate. Let's put another shrimp on the barbie. I'm in Australia. I can't do the accent. I can't. That's one. As you know, I'm capable of doing many. I can instantly blend into and mimic any culture. But I cannot do the accent. I don't understand how to do it. Blurp, blurp. Thank you for the $5. That's very kind of you.
Trans rights.
Your Australian viewers are finally seeing you right side up. Exactly. I said, now this is a knife. I can't do it, honestly. Not even the classic 8-syllable. Oh, no. I can do that. No, no. Oh, no. That's how they talk down there. Upside down, just like this crazy world we live in. Hell yeah, brother. It is like that, isn't it? Well, we're an hour into the stream chat. I guess I should probably try and like move into doing some like more serious stuff. We're getting a little silly with it again. You need to watch more Crocodile Dundee to get the accent down. You'd think, considering I drive a classic Australian automobile as well, that I'd be able to figure this out. The Australian culture is a big part of my life now, but anyway, it does feel like a bit of a slow day. It's a low viewer day. It's more of a chill vibe day, but I think we got some good stuff to take a look at here. I think looking at this clip with Dimitri Lascaris and Jeffrey Sachs might be good to look at. Israel on the brink of triggering a world war. I mean, as we've talked about numerous times over the last couple of years, it's felt like we've been dancing on the knife edge of World War III for the last multiple years at this point, and it just feels closer than ever. That other day when Iran bombed Tel Aviv, that did feel like, is it happening? Is it happening? And every time we start asking ourselves that question, it recedes. But one day we're going to ask that question, is it happening? And it's just going to happen. One day, I think this is just an inevitability almost. Have you had Mohammed Nourandi on? He seems like he's been everywhere lately. Yeah, and I just saw he's in another video on Breakthrough News. I can't believe he was on Piers Morgan. No, but he hasn't been on, but he seems like a great person to talk to. Insert "it's happening" meme here. One of these days, it's gonna happen. You know, like we talked about, we've got like the whole like nothing ever happens crowd. And you know, I think the bar for what constitutes stuff happening has been raised considerably over the last couple of years. The goalposts of determining whether anything happens have really shifted. Because I feel like a lot of stuff is happening all the time. And there's still people out there kind of holding on to this idea, nothing ever happens. And it's like, I feel like that's not true. I feel like stuff is always happening. Big stuff. Big things are always happening. That's my analysis. Shit has literally been happening nonstop. Yeah. Nothing ever happens. It's just white supremacist solipsism. I mean, that's true as well. If you're in a certain position to say that nothing ever happens, it's like indicative of like where you are in your culture and in your lifestyle. How is that guy calling Dershowitz a pedo on Morgan? I mean, I did watch that clip and it was like painful to look at, but it was quite revealing. But I thought it was interesting saying like, what does Jeffrey Epstein have to do with Israel? The idea that there is a connection. There's absolutely a connection with Epstein and Israel, which I wish had been explored a little bit more. Even though I enjoyed that the chaos of that segment, that's something that could actually be explored a lot more. Like fucking what's her name's connections to Mossad. How do I not even remember her name now? AOC is not connected to Mossad, is she? Oh my gosh. I was not expecting that comment. Ghislaine, yeah, exactly. Ghislaine Maxwell, her connection to Mossad through her father. You know, Epstein, his whole operation, like what was he doing? Was it just about like weird rich people's sex cult shit? Or was it some kind of like compromat gathering operation for the world's most powerful people? On whose behalf? These are all questions that I think should be asked. These are all things that should be interrogated. And it wasn't, even though that segment was kind of funny to watch, it was acting like Piers Morgan was acting like bringing up Epstein and Alan Dershowitz's connection to Epstein was some kind of like non sequitur or not related. It's absolutely related. It is absolutely related. I just learned some crazy ass shit about Robert Maxwell. We can thank him for making the academic publishing universe. The Robert Maxwell like rabbit hole is really serious once you start going down there. Like it's really, really serious stuff. So yeah, I did enjoy that segment, but I thought that was something that should be interrogated a little bit more. He just fell off a boat, that's all. Don't look into it. Low key also broke Morgan the other day. I go back and forth about like Piers Morgan and like whether people should be going on there, but like I don't know. I've seen Abby Martin go on Piers Morgan. I've seen Rania Khalek. You know, low key. You know, there's been Hassan even has been on there. Like I feel like even though you're participating in this kind of like grotesque like media circus, it is one of the only places where certain viewpoints are just being expressed. Like those viewpoints, whether it's Abby or Rania or Hassan or Loki or whatever, they're not being invited onto CNN. They're not being invited onto any of these other like mainstream media platforms. So maybe there's a certain value in that if it's done properly, if it's done correctly. And it seems like if Rania has been on there and I thought she was fantastic. Someone else that should come back on this show at some point. Yeah, that was a really interesting segment. But I do want to take a look at this. So this is an interview with Dimitri Lascaris and Jeffrey Sachs, who's I think a really interesting figure. Not someone that's like some kind of like Marxist or some kind of radical, but like a prominent American like academic liberal who has kind of like, just as everyone else has lost their minds just by like saying basic true things, as now seems like this like radical like extremist in contrast to all the other people that he operates with, like in his kind of like economic and political and social circles. He just comes across like he's this crazy radical. He's just this totally like normal liberal guy. I will remind people, even though it seems to be like a little bit of a slow day here on Twitch, if you do enjoy this program, I'm at 1 out of 35 subs for the day. We could move on to this segment, but if you do enjoy this program and you enjoy the silliness and the accents and talking about pickles and Diet Coke and more serious, hard-hitting analysis and journalism that I kind of sometimes also do, just occasionally, every now and then, please subscribe if you can. It would be really fantastic if the little number at the bottom of the screen, if we could get that going up just a little, just a smidgen more, just a little smidgen, it would be great to move into this next segment. Media establishment went to the right of him. Yeah, that's what it seems like. He's not someone that's taken on these extreme radical views. It's just everyone in that world has just lost their fucking minds, is the more accurate version of that. So I'll move on to that segment in just any moment now. As soon as, I'm sure the pipes have been jammed yet again. The pipes have gotten clogged yet again. And I'm sure any moment now I will be able to move on. I wonder if Piers ever ate a pay wet sandwich. I don't think so, no.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Oh, bruv, we got a bloody cloggage in it. Risk Inverse, there we go. Thank you very much for the 3 gifted subs. That's really, really kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. So let's look at this segment. I would like to get Dimitri Lascaris to come back on this show. I enjoyed talking with him last year or whenever that was. I would like to get him to come back on here, and I think this is probably going to be a good talk with Jeffrey Sachs. So let's check that out. And this is something we've been talking about over the last year. Obviously, Israel, which seems like just desperate to expand this conflict as much as possible. And as much as the United States has fully supported their genocide in Gaza, has been as yet unwilling or unable maybe to fully get involved to the extent that I think Israel would like them to. And that, I think, will be a central element of this election. If Trump does win, I think we could be looking at a possibility where the United States does get more involved in this than they are currently. And they're already deeply, deeply involved. I'm not trying to make some case that Biden is some kind of like dovish presence here. Obviously, we know that that's not the case, but that very well could be one of the things that's at stake in this coming election. I fell asleep after class. I didn't mean to be late. I promise you're my favorite phone man. Well, thank you, Dr. Maggot. That's right. I'm here. I've been here in your phone this entire time. Dems running ads against third-party votes as well. Well, that's how it shows that things are going really well for them with the polling and everything. You also have Barack Obama like scolding black male voters, which they would not talk to any other like voting constituency like this. You know? Like lecturing black males, being like, you're too sexist to support Kamala, basically. Like, it's just embarrassing. It's uncomfortable in the phone, but seeing the delight on people's faces makes it worth it. That's right, Risk Inverse. Yeah, I think why don't more Democrats go and like lecture white women about their inherent racism and their inherent reactionary tendencies. Like, I'm sure that's something that we would see a lot of. That's something that they would consider doing, right? It's really fucking weird to me that they would do that. But it's all indicative of the fact that things are not going well with the polling in like Michigan and some of these other important states that they need to win. Yeah, I actually do think they should go and lecture white women about that. I actually think that would be a good thing, but I don't think they're going to be doing that anytime soon. Anyway, let's check out this interview with Dimitri Lascaris and Jeffrey Sachs. Jeffrey Sachs, chilling warning, Israel is on the brink of triggering a world war.
Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Kalamata, Greece on Reason to Resist. And today I'm very pleased to be joined by an economist and geopolitical analyst who probably needs no introduction, Dr. Jeffrey Sachs. Dr. Sachs is a professor at Columbia University. From 2001 to 2018, he was special advisor to the UN Secretary General. He also served as an economic advisor
Trump
to
would have this
Soviet
locked
President
up if he
Mikhail
didn't pick
Gorbachev
Vance.
and his successor, Russian President Boris Yeltsin. Thank you so much for joining me today, Professor Sachs.
It's really my pleasure and honor. Thank you.
So the world painfully is now witnessing two major wars that are, in the opinion of many, existentially dangerous. The first of these wars has been raging in Ukraine and in some small parts of Western Russia for close to 3 years. Western governments assert the war began in 2022 when Russia's army invaded Ukraine, but others would argue, including yours truly, that it probably actually began in 2014.
This is what got me in trouble for talking to this man. Forbidden
Ukrainian
opinions.
President Viktor Yanukovych. And the second of these wars, of course, is happening in West Asia and is led by Israel with the full backing of the West. That war appears to be at a tipping point into a full-blown regional war with potentially catastrophic consequences for the region and beyond.
Yeah, I would say that
now, since your primary
Sachs is one of these American realist guys. Yeah, I would put him in that category with like Mearsheimer. Like this is not a radical Marxist. These are like American liberals that just that are basically haven't drank the psycho Kool-Aid that a lot of their companions and colleagues have. Like it's really as simple as that.
Uses economics. I wanted first to ask you for your economic assessment of Israel. Broadly speaking, how has the war in West Asia impacted Israel's economy? What is its current condition today? And do you believe that Israel has the capacity to sustain a multi-front war for much longer?
Thank you. First, Israel cannot sustain this war for even a day without full U.S. backing, both militarily and financially. So this is, to a large extent, a U.S. war. When Netanyahu says at the podium of the United Nations that the long arm of Israel extends across the Middle East, he's talking about the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. military. There's a lot of bravado, but Israel depends completely on the U.S. and the U.S. Also uses Israel as Israel uses the U.S. In these wars. The effect of the war itself is, of course, devastating to the Israeli economy, which has been twice downgraded in its credit rating. Now it's at the level just barely investment grade. It will be further downgraded by the credit rating agencies. This will be a major blow to the normal economic functioning. The military costs are enormous. The damage, the dislocation, the costs to the labor supply, which is now in the army rather than in the offices and in the direct production in the economy, is also an enormous cost. So this is all the more reason for this war to end. It's in nobody's interest. It's absolute disaster for first the Palestinian people, of course, for Lebanon, but also for Israel. And I would say for the U.S., which is now complicit in what I do regard as a genocidal action by Israel. The ICJ, the International Court of Justice, is still deliberating whether Israel is in violation of the 1948 Genocide Convention, but I surmise that it is.
Now, if this war continues to escalate to the point where the U.S. and Israel are directly attacking Iran, and Iran is responding with all of its capabilities, and recognizing how difficult it is to make predictions about the consequences economically for that type of a war in the region, what, broadly speaking, would you expect the impacts on the global economy to be?
The problem, first and foremost, is that a war like this...
I disagree when people say it's in nobody's interest. If it was nobody's interest, it wouldn't be happening. Yeah, and we can look no further than the U.S. weapons contractors and weapons manufacturers, number one. And there's plenty of people in the Israeli ruling class. It's absolutely in their interests as well. So yeah, I wouldn't agree with that either. Israel started offering 20-year bonds. Can't imagine who would buy those. I feel like it's been something that's been underreported. The effects that this is having on their economy. It's been a while since we've had a China good. I got to get out of here, guy. It was really fun. That was fun, Dr. Maggot. That was fun. I hope they'll be back as well. Maybe we gave them some things to think about.
Only is guaranteed to kill vast numbers of people, but it could also escalate into.
It's only counter to U.S. hegemony because it's colossally fucking up the game. I mean, there's two things, and we've talked about this before. Like, there's different factions, right? And there's a faction of the military-industrial complex, the intelligence community, or whatever it was, that don't want to be fucking around in the Middle East right now, that want to be pivoting to China and pivoting to Asia and focusing more on containing Russia with the Ukraine war and containing China with Taiwan and turning Taiwan into a U.S. military base. And they maybe correctly realize that this is preventing them from fully committing to that the way that some of them would like. They want this to be sewn up. That's what they were trying to do before October 7th, create this situation with normalization with Saudi Arabia and Israel and these Arab Gulf states, so they don't have to worry about fucking around in the Middle East anymore, and they can focus on containing China. But this is like kind of preventing them from being able to do that fully. So that's true. At the same time, it's also true that American weapons manufacturers are making a fucking killing, and there's plenty of people that's all they really care about. And there's also plenty of people that in these factions that want wider regional conflict, that want war with Iran, that want to reshape the Middle East. So as always, you can point to different things where you could point out where it's kind of counter to U.S. hegemony, it's counter to U.S. interests. And I don't think there's not one kind of specific vision of that. There's different factions and different groups of people that want different things. Some of them, I think, are unhappy about this current status quo. Some of them are very, very happy with it and want it to escalate.
To yet another great power confrontation between the United States and Russia quite easily. The fact of the matter is Iran itself is a powerful country. It has hypersonic ballistic missiles, according to all recent evidence. It can attack Israel. It can penetrate the Iron Dome. It can do grave damage to population centers and to military and infrastructure targets.
And they proved that they can do great damage to military and infrastructure
of course,
targets.
Can do great damage back, especially
the way that attack was framed. It was like, oh, they didn't kill any civilians, so it was a failure. When they did, they demonstrated that they could strike these military targets and do severe damage there. People are just so brain poisoned by seeing Israel constantly drop 500-kilogram bombs on little kids sleeping in tents that like anything less than that feels like this big failure. But that's not at all what happened.
The United States is complicit in this, which it almost surely would be directly. It would probably not only give the green light, but be operationally involved in targeting, in providing intelligence, space surveillance, and so as well as the direct.
Yeah, they're a bar for what's successful is whether children die.
Iran is an ally of Russia. If Iran is being pummeled by U.S.-Israel combination of forces, I would expect in some way that Russia would become involved and we would have a two-front war with Russia. This is dangerous beyond imagining, except the imagining of our lame brains who actually run things or think they run things in Washington. It's dangerous beyond imagining because Russia has 1,600 deployed nuclear weapons, as does the United States, and roughly 6,000
that's cool, Brandon.
total, including those in stockpile. The latest idiocy from the U.S. is we shouldn't worry about that. That's just a bluff and so forth. Well, these people are not good at almost any assessments that they make strategically. This is the gang that loses everything and that gambles wrong on everything and makes the predictions wrong on everything, so that when they tell me not to worry, it probably quadruples my level of worry, which is high enough to begin with.
And mine too, for what it's worth. Which this actually brings me to an assessment that French anthropologist Emmanuel Todd offered of the global geopolitical situation in early 2023, before the war erupted in West Asia. And according to Emmanuel Todd, at that point in time, World War III had already begun. And he went on to explain that this is now a struggle, the struggle between Russia and its allies,
Yeah, and I
particularly
think Russia would
China
support
on the
Iran.
one hand, and the United States and its allies, or others like me might call them vassals, on the other side, which must end in the collapse of one or the other side. That was the view articulated by Emmanuel Todd. Do you believe that we are in that kind of a struggle, or is it fair to say that we are now in a world war?
It's interesting. Pope Francis has been saying that for a decade, that we are already in a world war. And
Putin is tanky,
it's terrifying,
Pope Francis.
to hear that, because he's, of course, one of the most profound observers in the world. Emmanuel Todd is no slouch. He's an absolute outstanding observer as well. We are definitely in a struggle between the United States and its allies, and the China, Russia, and more generally BRICS countries. It's a struggle that the BRICS countries, that is China, Russia, and the other members of the BRICS, are not choosing, in my opinion, but are responding to. What is this struggle about? It is the struggle based on a delusion. The delusion is...
When it turns out the Pope is woke. I always love these Catholics that are like, no, I'm ignoring this one. It's like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. No, this guy doesn't count. This guy doesn't count. He's woke. He doesn't count. I don't have to listen to him. You do have to listen to him. If you're Catholic, you do. That's the whole fucking point. That's the whole thing. You do have to listen to him. You don't get to pick and choose. That's the whole thing. That's the whole deal. My religious leader doesn't count when they don't agree with me. Sorry. You chose, this is what you wanted. This is your whole deal.
The U.S. delusion that it is the world's superpower, sole superpower. It's the delusion of American hegemony. It's the delusion that America leads the world and should lead the world. And of course, this is the usual mantra or claptrap, I would say, of U.S. Foreign policy.
Who does he think he is? Literally the voice of God on earth. And listen, I'm not Catholic. I don't have to listen to him. You do. You're Catholic. You have to listen to him. Should I have to explain this to people? This is your whole thing.
Announcements, but it's absurd because most of the world does not want to be led by the United States, does not want to be threatened by the United States. We have a war in Ukraine
God is woke
because Russia does not
What is the world coming
accept
to?
the United States military on its border, specifically on the Russia-Ukraine border. That's the whole basis of why there is a Ukraine war. Russia does not accept the United States deciding who rules in Ukraine. And certainly the war broke out in 2014 because that's when the fighting broke out after the United States participated in a coup to overthrow the Ukrainian president. Russia doesn't accept that. China does not accept the United States sending arms to Taiwan or senior U.S. officials visiting Taiwan without the Chinese assent, because China says there is one China. The United States signed on to that. And China says the United States should respect China's sovereignty and not meddle in the internal affairs of China. I also subscribe to that because the last thing in the world we need is a war between the United States and China. But for these neocons who run things in Washington and their vassals in Canada, Britain, and Western Europe, what the U.S. says goes. This is the real problem. Putin eventually, after really more than 2 decades of trying to
Brandon, you could have been one of those really
United
cool youth
States, and
pastors.
the U.S. kept saying it's none of your business what we do. Putin acted sharply in February 2022. This war was utterly avoidable, at least this last escalation of the war in February 2022. The war was also avoidable in February 2014. The United States should not be in the business of regime change operations, period. Period. Let me say it again.
That's right, Joe. These are unauthorized opinions. You talk about the Euromaidan like
system,
that.
No
Not allowed.
interference in the internal
That's
affairs
Putler.
of another country. It's so simple. If we behave that way, we would avoid disaster. But the United States believes it can interfere anywhere, covertly, overtly, open war, coups, secret operations, and the rest of the so-called U.S. alliance just salutes.
So I'd like to drill down on the situation in the occupied territories. You and Sybil Forrest, I hope I'm not mispronouncing.
Yes, that's correct. She's my colleague at the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network.
Right. You just argued with Ms. Forrest in an op-ed, a just published op-ed. You made some argument. You made a case about why the two-state solution has not been realized as of yet. And in addition, you responded to the claim, which many of us have been hearing for many years, that the reason why the negotiations at Camp David broke down in 2000 was because the Palestinians, led by Yasser Arafat, allegedly rejected this generous Israeli proposal for a Palestinian state.
This is what people like
Could
Hillary
you
Clinton are out
elaborate
there
on what
saying
the
now.
reality of the breakdown of the negotiations was, and why? What is the motivation, in your view, for Israel having vigorously opposed the creation of a
I
Palestinian
don't know,
state?
Spooky Birdie. He's got a YouTube channel.
Well, let's start with that. Going back already to the Balfour Declaration, there was grave unrest and confrontation between the Arab population, which inhabited what is today Palestine and Israel, and the British imperial promise of a homeland to the Jewish people. When Britain was not owner of the land, this was Ottoman land, but in typical British imperial
Ames, I think you want to look into that.
form, they promised the land. Actually,
I'm facilitating between I wish the U.S. establishment would listen to this guy, and I'm glad they don't listen to him because they're accelerating to their own doom. Unfortunately, they're bringing millions of people along with them. So yeah, I wish more people would listen to this fucking guy.
several times over. They promised it to the French in the Sykes-Picot Treaty. They promised it to the Arabs in the McMahon letters, and they promised it to the Jews. The British are nothing if not cynical and conniving. That's how they had an empire. It lasted for a long time. The behavior is gross and destabilizing. And so they set the trap for more than 100 years of conflict in the Middle East by promising land that wasn't theirs to a population that wasn't there. and then came the Jewish influx, and the Palestinian Arabs rejected it from the beginning, said, this is our country. Who tells you to come here? The British were the imperial authority, so-called mandatory authority, up until 1947, when they threw their hands up, especially at the face of Jewish terrorism, in fact, that was killing the British, for example, in the bombing of the King David Hotel. And after the Holocaust,
they're the ones who brought that style of terrorism
Hitler,
to the region.
The
Zionists.
Surviving Jewish refugees were given by the U.S. And Britain more or less the the decision go to Palestine.
King David Hotel, what they did? There was a terrorist bombing. The Zionists did a terrorist bombing at this hotel. Like, it's shocking when you look into the stories of terrorism and violence that were taking place during this process. It's genuinely shocking. And the way that they now accuse Palestinians of being the terrorists, you know, they literally introduced this type of violence to the region.
Conflict had been there for
I just learned about this recently, too. You don't really hear a lot about this.
In 1917.
Been conveniently forgotten.
1947, the UN proposed a partition plan. It's interesting. At the time, the Palestinians were about 66%
built on terrorism
of the population,
and sustained by it.
About 33%, roughly. But the land was given in roughly the reverse order, most going to is what would be Israel, and less than half going to Palestine. The Palestinians rejected it. The Arab nations rejected it. Israel declared independence, and Israel used terror to chase away hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their homes in what the Palestinians called the Nakba, the disaster. And that was 1947, so we're 77 years since then, and there's been no resolution of this crisis. There have been generations of refugees, and Israel rejected, from then till now, a state of Palestine. Yes, there have been talks, but Israel never was going to allow a state of Palestine. This, from their point of view, was a matter of prevarication, a matter of delay, but they thought for two main reasons, never. The two main reasons are our security. We don't accept the state of Palestine. And increasingly over time, not at the beginning, but from the 1990s onward, a almost messianic movement or a believer in messianism of religious.
My grandparents' generation fought in the '67 war. Like, I grew up hearing about Israel's crimes. Yeah. Well, that's it. It's like, I think if you don't come from that specific kind of like cultural context, you really do not hear about this stuff. Like, you have to go out of your way to find this information. We decide everything in our favor, and you don't accept it. Israel in the UN, 1947 till now, which is also just like a colonialist tactic dating back, centuries. That's how colonialism has always functioned, like wherever it has appeared.
Nationalists, ultra-religious rabbis preaching we must settle the occupied lands of Palestine, which were lands captured in the 1967 war, because God promised us those lands. This itself is a long digression, but 2,600 years ago, a book called the Book of Joshua was written and incorporated into the Jewish Bible. And that book purported to describe events of hundreds of years earlier, in which the book claimed that God gave the Jews all the land from the Euphrates to the Mediterranean Sea. And for religious zealots, they're reading this 2,600-year text and saying, well, that's it. That's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to behave. And people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir in the current cabinet have zealots as followers who are reading an ancient text. And that text, by the way, again, in a digression, documents or purports to document, because it's not even a historical text, but it claims to be, documents how the Israelites conquered the land of Canaan by several genocides.
Yeah, Brent, I did like on the latest Insurgents episode that the guest, Sana Saeed, made clear to always point the finger primarily at the U.S. I feel like so many people now claim that Israel is the puppet master, maybe of politicians and media. In cases, the U.S. is still the great Satan, as always. And that's why I wanted to make that point also, Brandon, that it's not just like us making that point, but it's people like Hassan Nasrallah, right? in the Hezbollah. Like they're very clear in their understanding of this, of who is actually pulling the strings and who's in charge of this relationship. In spite of how they get framed in Western media as just being these like zealots, these like Jew-hating zealots, that's not at all what their actual analysis is. Or Hamas. They make this very, very clear. But we deliberately ignore all this stuff. Because it's much more convenient to just paint them as being these Jew-hating terrorists. That's much more easier to make the case about why they should just be arbitrarily assassinated.
Supposedly God commanded genocides. The whole thing is completely mixed up in that you have one side that says we are going to rule over Palestinians because we don't accept them having a state because that would endanger us. And another side saying, well, God gave us this anyway, so don't you dare give it away. This is Jewish land, and we're redeeming God's plan. Well, it's hard to make a recipe for more of a mess than this. But the only thing I would add is that the Israel lobby has basically balked the U.S. Congress and the White House through mega campaign donations over many decades and by senior positions in the U.S. being even filled by people that are part of the Israeli Defense Forces, born in Israel. This is what's
like
called
Amos Hochstein, the
exactly, called an honest broker. It's unbelievable. So Israel has these completely, in my view, unacceptable ideas backed by the United States military and by the U.S. government and by the Congress. So here we are. They don't want to compromise. They think that they can kill as many Palestinians, turn Gaza to rubble, invade Lebanon, smash Iran. The U.S. will do all those nice favors for them. That's fine. And that's how it's going to be. And some people believe that's the only way to peace. And some people believe it's the only way to God's plan. I don't know who's crazier because both of these are completely wrong. The Arabs have been saying for 22 years vividly, clearly, we want two states, peace, mutual security, normalization of relations. They can't say it more clearly. And then Netanyahu and his gang say, oh, no one on the other side wants peace. And the Arabs say, but we do want peace. No one on the other side wants peace. And it's a kind of game for can you shout enough or bomb enough or kill enough political opposition of the other side or political negotiators so that you can say no one wants peace on the other side. Well, eventually, maybe you can make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what they seem to want to do. But this is a disaster for Israel. It's a disaster for the world. It's a threat to escalation to yet another front on the U.S.-Russia war, and that means another path to escalation to nuclear war.
The whole question of the two-state solution now is, I think, fraught with difficulty because of the conditions that prevail in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. About 4 months ago, I think it was in June, the United Nations Development Program issued a report.
That was another thing about the whole Piers Morgan interview with Dershowitz and all this stuff. And they're saying, well, do you support a two-state solution? And it's just like, what difference does it make, like, whether like some person being interviewed on Piers Morgan or like me or you or anyone, whether we support a two-state solution or not? Israel doesn't want one. They've made that totally clear. It's like, what's the point of even talking about it? They don't want one. Like, there's no, how much more evidence do you need of that? They're not interested. That's what the settlements have been all about. The settlements have been about making sure that that's impossible. And any possibility of some kind of a two-state solution now is drastically reduced from what it might have looked like one day, like decades ago. And then we blame the Palestinians for not immediately getting on board with that.
said that assuming that reconstruction begins at some point in the reasonably near future in Gaza, if it were done at the same pace at which housing was reconstructed in prior conflicts, it would take 80 years just to restore the destroyed housing, let alone deal with the damaged housing, which is much larger, the quantity there. And of course, you have unexploded munitions. You have contaminants now to a far higher level than before because of the munitions. And then in the West Bank, you have 700,000 to 800,000 settlers. As you've indicated, quite rightly, they are quite fanatical, many of them, if not the vast majority of them, and many of them are armed. And we've seen
Human
the
shields.
degree to which they are willing to go, even under threat of U.S. sanctions, however symbolic they may be, some of these extremist settlers, in order to impose their will on the Palestinians and try to drive them out. So at this stage, is it even practicable to talk about a two-state solution? Isn't really, as a practical matter, the only path to justice and peace a single state in which Palestinians, Jews, and all others who reside in historic Palestine live together as equal citizens?
That would be fine, but that's far less likely than a
I'm
two-state
sorry for being so
solution.
negative, Bleep Lord.
That would mean actually the destruction of Israel as a state, whereas the two-state solution has Israel continuing, but alongside a Palestinian state. So you can choose, and either way is quite plausible. Either way is intellectually and morally defensible. But as a practical matter, one way destroys Israel and the other way creates a Palestinian state alongside Israel. From my reading and understanding, it is the two-state solution that has nearly universal assent, is built into international law, and could be practicable. Of course, not easy. It would require UN force. It would require UN peacekeepers. It would require saying these are the borders. It would require imposing
Good luck
this
enforcing that
on Israel.
And yes, Sam, they've used depleted uranium munitions and white phosphorus munitions on Beirut in the last little while. Truly insane. It is insane. It's not only insane what they're doing and the scale of like barbarity of it, but the fact that there doesn't seem to be any limit to the criminality that they can employ with zero repercussions that won't be backed up by like smirking fucking psychopaths in the United States State Department.
You could impose one of two things. You could impose the end of Israel, or you could impose a state alongside Israel. I think imposing the end of Israel is probably less likely and more traumatic. It would not win a vote in the UN General Assembly or the Security Council, whereas the two-state solution wins overwhelming votes in both the General Assembly and the Security Council. So I view it as the right
They literally
path
just kill some
going.
Irish UN peacekeepers. I mean, I know they're using them as like basically human shields. They've been killing UN employees this whole time, the whole last year. They basically openly say that the UN is Hamas at this point. So the idea that that at any point the UN is going to step in and be like, here, we've decided these are the borders and we're going to enforce that through some kind of actual like mechanism. It's just like, it would be great if it were true, but it seems delusional though to think that that's a possibility at this point. Well, Brandon called Bibi a fucking liar, exactly. So that should show them. That should show them.
Going forward, it's hard enough. The other path maybe
I would not be
more
pissing off the
acceptable
Irish if I was
path,
Israel.
but it's a less likely path, and it could really reach a kind of fever pitch of Armageddon if that were to be imposed, ending Israel as
Does the UN
a
not have a
Jewish
jurisdiction to do anything when the IDF is blatantly shooting UN peacekeepers? Apparently not. Apparently not. Because you've got the United States of America backing them up fully no matter what. So, no. Like, what? I don't know. What are we supposed to say? It's hard not to come to any other conclusion. I wish this was not the case.
sovereign state. But either way, from my point of view, you could defend either way intellectually. morally, politically, historically.
It's crazy to all of us.
But I do believe that the right approach is two states because we're actually very close to being able to do that. To my mind, there are two big obstacles. One is the U.S., not
It's
Israel,
a big
but
obstacle.
the U.S., which vetoes this. But I think that the U.S. veto is a vote for war. It is not a vote for Israel's safety. It's not a vote for U.S. security interests. So I think it can, and it's not a vote that reflects the U.S. public opinion. And it isolates the U.S. Internationally. So I think the U.S. can change. Once that happens, then the Security Council can vote membership of Palestine as the 194th.
Remember when the cops got in a chase shootout with a robber that hijacked a UPS truck, and the UPS worker got killed, and then UPS apologized for the driver getting in the way? It's like that. It is like that. Those cops thought they were in Heat. Not like in Heat, but like in Heat, the Michael Mann movie. And then UPS ends up apologizing. It is exactly like that, yes.
UN member state. International law has already defined the borders as the 4th of June, 1967. The Arab states have already said that this is what they seek. This is what the Palestine Authority seeks. Hamas has already said that it finds that acceptable. Iran has said it finds it's acceptable. So that would overcome a lot. You'd have unanimity other than Israel itself in the United Nations. Then there's the practical problem,
not like that,
which
Dr.
is, as you described, the reality on the ground. You know, I first went to Israel in 1972, so 52 years ago. The first thing that was explained to me was facts on the ground, that they're going to make settlements in occupied territories, illegal or not, to make facts on the ground. Well, they did it. They made everything vastly more complicated. So what does one say? Well, you've had 52 years of illegal settlement, so go keep it? I don't think so. That is what's happening right now as absolute recipe.
You need
for
an
war.
enforcement mechanism. Like, what he's saying, like, no, it doesn't make sense to do that. In order to like fix that problem, though, you need an actual enforcement mechanism. You can't just be like, okay, no more settlements. People have been saying that. There's people that live there now. How are they going to move? Are people going to go in and move them? Who's going to do that? The UN? Who? That's just the reality. You can't, as long as the US is backing up Israel. That's just the reality.
So, yes, there may have to be 10 years. Maybe the settlers can accept Palestinian citizenship. Maybe they're phased out over a 10-year.
This is like, again, I do appreciate Zach's analysis, but this is psychotic, though. Maybe these settlers will accept Palestinian citizenship. Yeah, maybe. Like, he's just admitted in this interview the level of like extremism that is being operated here. It's delusional. Maybe they'll accept Palestinian citizenship. No, sir. No. That's not going to happen. It's big cope. No, they will not. They're not going to be accepting Palestinian citizenship. Do you hear yourself, Jeffrey? That's just wild. That's a wild statement.
Period. There definitely would need to be UN peacekeepers. So I don't think that this is simple, and it's not a matter of an agreed solution. It's a matter of an imposed solution. But no solution is going to be
the only people that are ever the only person that can ever impose it is the United States.
None. It's going to have to be imposed, or there's going to be continued mass bloodshed, an apartheid regime, and a threat of nuclear escalation.
Now, I know you have to go, Professor Sachs, but I did want to ask you just one more question, which I think you could respond to quite briefly. And that is, recently you were in a very interesting discussion with Professor John Mearsheimer. And in the course of that discussion, which people can
what country would these peacekeepers come from?
I'm going to put a link to it in the
great
description
question.
to this video. You both talked about the U.S. deep state. And to my surprise, because he is, after all, a realist, Professor Mearsheimer expressed the view that there are people, decision makers, key decision makers within the U.S. deep state, who believe that they are genuinely promoting liberal democracy around the world. And you had
Well, that's what they say. Like, that's what he says. It's been 50 years. So what, you should be allowed to keep your illegal settlements? No, I don't think so. Like, he's right there. But then it's like the next step. What's the next step to that? And he can't quite fill in the blanks.
That there are people, after all, a realist, Professor Mearsheimer expressed the view that there are people, decision makers, key decision makers within the U.S. deep state, who believe that they are genuinely promoting liberal democracy around the world. And you had a spirited response to that assertion. I just wondered if you could share that with our audience today.
Yeah, I told John Mearsheimer, who is a good friend and a brilliant scholar, I told him, don't be such an idealist, John.
Jeffrey, talking about people's idealism, lecturing people about idealism, I think after some of the statements we've just heard is maybe a little outrageous. I don't know.
Be a realist. Of course, I was joking because he's our lead realist. But a realist says that it is national interests and national survival, and that this promotion of democracy business is smoke and mirrors, delusion, a game. Maybe some people believe it, but don't take it too seriously. That's my experience of U.S. foreign policy. I've seen very little evidence that the U.S. cares anything about democracy. It's absolutely ready to overthrow democratic governments. It's ready to overthrow so-called authoritarian governments. It's ready to subvert any country at any time for U.S. interests, especially to put a new military base someplace. So I don't find the argument that there was idealistic nation building possible. If it is true,
I actually would side with Mearsheimer on that. I think there's genuinely people that believe in this project, that believe that the only legitimate form of government is this kind of Western style liberal democracy, and the only legitimate form of world this kind of global system is only one that's being controlled and operated by the United States, and everything beyond that is this scary world of dangerous authoritarianism. I really think people genuinely do believe that these higher echelons of power. I think certainly some people are just very cynical. But people are brainwashed. People go to these elite institutions. They're all part of these elite institutions. They go to these same schools. They're all part of the same secret societies. They get indoctrinated into this pro-America ideology, pro-American hegemony ideology, and they really believe this shit. Maybe there's more people that are just totally cynical about this and recognize correctly that they're just overthrowing whoever they don't like and whoever represents a threat to their interests, primarily economic interests. But I do really think that there are people that they fully believe this. You can go back reading the Jakarta method and stuff like that, and the foundation of the CIA. You look at all the evil shit that the CIA did, and the founders of the CIA and all these early CIA guys, they were all firm believers. It was almost like this religious doctrine for them. They thought that they were doing good things. They really did. And I think this is how, when you think about some of the horrible things that people have done in this context, it's like that. How do you live with yourself? How do you live with yourself? Overthrowing a democratically elected government in, say, Indonesia, which leads to 1 million people being killed. Well, you sleep with you sleep at night and you live with yourself if you think that you're doing this the favor to people, that you're helping people, that you're promoting democracy, and that these people are all bad people. You're getting rid of these bad people. That's how you do it. You don't go to bed thinking, I'm evil. I love being evil, and I love instigating purges in these places and killing people for American financial interests. But I think you've created an ideology where people do genuinely believe that they're doing this good thing in the world, and these good things that they're doing are linked to American multinational corporations achieving huge record profits. And they don't see any separation between these two things. Dulles probably did. Well, Dulles was just a Nazi. I mean, that's just the reality of him. So yeah, I agree with Mearsheimer on that point. I genuinely, these people are true believers. A lot of them are. Maybe not all. Maybe not all. I do think there are some just cynical, evil operators in there, but I think a lot of them fully believe in what they're doing. They're true believers. They've fully bought into this, it's like this religion. It's like a religion. And sometimes it is actually mixed with religion in and of itself. They believe it. These people are true believers. A lot of them do believe in the West being the arbiter of freedom. That's why they see any attack on Western interests as an attack on freedom itself. Lacerdo's liberalism, a counter history, very clear on this concept. Yeah, I fully believe this, that there's people that they've completely bought into this, and it's there's a whole system in place to indoctrinate people into this belief system, to put people in that position. Speaking of that attitude, James Woolsey admitting it openly was eye-opening. I can take a look at that in a sec.
They're not only ill-willed and ill-directed, but so unbelievably incompetent, it exceeds my wildest definition of incompetence, because I've never seen a shred of evidence that they were actually interested in building any other country or certainly any other democracy.
I haven't had your access to the halls of power, but I've not seen a scintilla of evidence either. In any event, Professor Sachs, I much appreciate again your time, and I hope we can continue the discussion in the future.
Absolutely. I look forward to that. Thank you.
Interesting.
Have we ever tried to meddle in other countries' elections?
Oh, probably, but it was for the good of the system in order to avoid the communists from taking over. For example, in Europe, in
there it is.
47, 48, 49, the Greeks and the Italians, we
don't do that now, though. We don't mess around other people's elections, Jim.
Only for a very good cause.
Can you do that? Do a Vine video on a former CIA director.
Only for a very good cause.
Okay.
The psychos, absolute psychos. But like I said, they're not evil. They're not comic book villains. I'm evil. You just wake up today and I'm evil. I'm going to overthrow a government so American multinational corporations get record profits. And they go to bed and they're like, I'm so evil. Like people aren't like that. Those silly third worlders don't know what's good for them. They need our help. That's what's so funny about a lot of these folks realizing, like looking around, there was that amazing, well, yum, 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 yum. What the fuck was that, Sam? What the fuck was that? Well, it's time to do an evil. Yeah, they just wake up every day and this is what they think. At best, they believe that they're the good shepherds of the democratic sheep. Yeah, totally. Totally. Larry, Moe, and Curly invade Bolivia. We watched that one clip a couple months ago. I don't even remember how, I couldn't even think of the first thing of how to find it, but there's that clip of like some woman from the State Department giving some deposition and talking about Latin America and how these countries are no longer turning to the US for development. And they're so confused. They just don't get it. They're like, why we were offering like the IMF and we're offering all these helping hands to these developing countries and now they don't want it anymore. They're so confused and perplexed by this. Like, it's incredible to me. These people at the upper echelons of power in the West, they just don't fucking get it. They don't understand why people around the world do not want anything to do with the United States of America anymore. And many of them never did in the first place, but there was just not an alternative. I thought that clip was so revealing. I couldn't even remember how we could find it again, but I thought it was fascinating. We don't do that anymore, do we? Nom, 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 nom. What the fuck? These people are sick. Just absolute sickos. Anyway, I do, like, again, I appreciate Jeffrey Sachs' analysis. I appreciate that he's this, like, liberal that has taken these what are now really radical stances on, like, Russia, Ukraine, or about Israel or any of this stuff. We can have a critique of that and we can poke holes in it and find faults with that. But I do still appreciate that he's someone on that kind of echelon of like academia and someone who has had access to like actual power that's out there making this case. I think there's something kind of valuable to that. And I do appreciate those interviews. We need to figure out why these countries are turning to China. It's just a mystery, Cinnamon Challenge. They just don't get it. They don't understand what is happening. And I mean, it leaks, this ideology leaks down to just like random people online as well. The people that are like, oh yeah, of course I hate the USA, but you know, Russia and China are worse. So it's like, we got to support what the USA does, even if we don't always like it, even if we don't always agree. Many such cases. Many such cases. Sometimes we even see them on this very stream. Of course I hate the United States of America. A lot of these like Bellingcat guys have this kind of stance. Of course I critique the security state and I critique imperialism. I critique American foreign policy. But Russia's worse and China's worse and the alternative is worse. So that's all. That's all it comes down to it. Somewhat relatedly, I just started reading the Lacerda Stalin book, and it's very good so far. I got to read that as well. There's so many books that I got to read. Our anarchist friend from yesterday, oddly silent. And as was pointed out to me yesterday, and this is something that even though we kind of have a little fun with these conversations sometimes, anarchists, I think, do incredible work organizing domestically. And like we talk about what's going to happen if Trump wins again or if Pierre Poilievre wins again. And a lot of that is going to come down to like organizing in communities, mutual aid and protests and things like that. Anarchists do incredible work doing that kind of stuff. The disagreement that I have often comes from these like geopolitical conversations, and this kind of like all states bad kind of like mentality allows people to kind of like do this kind of mental gymnastics where they simultaneously oppose and support U.S. interests. That's where I have these kind of arguments, but I always think it's worth mentioning that as well and pointing that out when we have a little fun with some of our anarchist friends and comrades who do some really incredible work organizing. Certainly more than me, so I'm going to point that out. Lacerdo is the liberal understander. Yeah, I really got to read that. The Chinese are putting countries into debt traps via the Belt and Road Initiative. Trevor Noah broadened my horizons on this. Yeah, Trevor Noah has been oddly silent on a lot of things over the last year as well, despite building a whole persona about growing up under apartheid. Yeah, talking about the Belt and Road Initiative debt traps is just amazing. Like we talked about this yesterday. But being in like America, being a United States citizen and like criticizing that's really remarkable. So I don't know really what's next here, folks. We got another 30, 40 minutes here. I will remind people again. First, I would just like to shout out Dimitri Lascaris, a former guest of the show as well. I'm going to link the interview you just did. If you want to subscribe to Dimitri over on YouTube, you can do that. And also what you can do as well is subscribe to this program that you're watching currently. That's also another thing that you could do. I'm not telling anyone what to do or telling you how you should spend your time or whatever it is. But if you want to, it does really, really help when people subscribe to this program. As you can see, there's a little number at the bottom of the screen. And every single day, I'm trying to make this little number go up. It's my blessing and my curse, my Sisyphean curse, that I must make this fucking number at the bottom of the screen go up each and every day. Little Baby Beef is posting secret work chats in the chat. Knox plans. What could that mean? What could that mean? We don't know. We're gonna keep thinking about it though. But please, if you can, folks, subscribe if you can. Help me make the little number go up. Get access to all of the very cool, tiny little images that you can rent for $5 per month. You can subscribe. You can gift subs as well. That's always very helpful. There are the bits, tips, Patreon. There's a number of different ways that you can support this program. Please subscribe if you can. Help me make the number go up. It's that's the only way that I'm able to do this show each and every day.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
There we go. Lil Baby Beef is obviously through his work organizing some kind of Fort Knox, maybe some kind of a heist, some kind of Ocean's 11 style heist, and I guess has some subs to throw around as well. So Lil Baby Beef, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Very kind of you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And again, it's the only way that I can do this show. It's the only way that I'm able to keep doing this show every day. This show that you love, this community that you love. It's the only way that I'm able to do it is if people
You can count on
subscribe
me. You're gonna have good
and
old Rob
if
to,
the little
talk
number
you through
goes
all
up.
this.
You know, don't ask me to explain why. That's just how it works. I'm gonna drop 100 when I pull off the heist.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Ziminyar, thank you for the gifted sub as well. Thank you for that. Very much appreciated. Very cool. And yes, that's it, folks. It's the only way. I've been going on 4 years doing this show. We're coming up on election night. I got some election night stuff planned for this show that should be quite cool. These people are acting like they don't know it's not a cult or a pyramid scheme. Should I put on the video? In case there's anyone watching that's like, what is this community all about? You know, there is a little onboarding orientation video that I have prepared. You can always check that out if you're curious about what this community is all about. I'm going to go ahead and throw that on right now. Please do, Catalepsy, if you do think it's a cult, there's some information in here that I think you'd be interested in. So please do subscribe if you can. Help me make the little number go up. Help keep the show on the air. Help support the work that I do here on Twitch. Help support the community. It's all very, very helpful. And if you don't know what this community is about, here is this little onboarding video that I've made for your viewing pleasure.
Expressing interest in the Friendship Triangle community. We would be thrilled to have you on board as a member of our exclusive platform. As you may know, the Friendship Triangle is Twitch's only two-dimensional, triangle-shaped, friendship access and trickle-down clout, tiered reward system. Today you have an amazing opportunity to join the base level of the Friendship Triangle system. Once you are part of the community, you'll have the ability to rise through the ranks and achieve higher levels of access and rewards. One way to do this is by gifting subscriptions to your fellow members or by inviting your friends and family members to join our community. As you ascend the tiers, you will be exposed to a range of new and exciting benefits, such as exclusive content, advanced features, and access to our elite community members. We are confident that you will enjoy all the perks that come with being part of the Friendship Triangle. However, we also want to remind you that not all friends and family members are to be trusted, especially those who may not support your new lifestyle. That's why we encourage you to focus on building meaningful relationships within our community, where you will find like-minded individuals who share your interests and values. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We are always here to support our members and ensure that your experience with the Friendship Triangle is enjoyable. We're glad that you are considering joining the Friendship Triangle community. We look forward to seeing you rise through the Chaos Zone and all the way into the Elite tier. It's not a cult.
Anyway, as you can hear, folks, it's not a cult. It says there right in the video. Do you think the dude hired on Fiverr reading this was questioning it all? That was all text to speech. That was the TikTok text to speech function. I, for one, am in it for the advanced features. Thank you, Sam. So yes, if there's any other fine folks that would like to support this program, you can do so. You can still do so. We got a mere measly 25 subs to go to get to the goal. Should be no problem. There's no sure promise of hidden knowledge, but there's also no guarantee that none will be available. That's how you gotta find out. Exactly. It's not free, but it is legal, technically. Yep. That is that video. What's the song in the video background? It's so familiar I can't place it. It was just like a random like vaporwave track that I found. Just to give it that like 80s self-help infomercial.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
That self-help infomercial, late night commercial kind of vibe that I was going for there. Any way to indicate on here that we're Patreon subs? I actually don't think that there is. I know there is in the Discord server, but I missed it. When is the Chaos Zone? There isn't, believe it or not, there is another diagram here. Now, as you can see in this diagram here, when you do subscribe to the program, and Joe 110, did I say thank you? My brain is already evaporating. Thank you, Joe, for the gifted sub, though. When you do gift a sub or subscribe, you get into the base level here. After gifting 5 subs and above, it does push you into that elite level. So between 1 and 5 puts you right there in the middle in the Chaos Zone. And here you see as well the trickle-down clout system in place. Obviously more concentrated there in the elite level. And here, of course, are the non-subscribers on the outside looking in. Unfortunately, not able to access the Friendship Triangle's patented trickle-down clout formula. People act like it's just made-up nonsense, but there's a method to all this. Exactly. Exactly. Anyway. That's what this community is all about. But gifting 5 subs doesn't keep you there forever. I think that's a good point, Kijiji, that maybe we don't drive home enough. It's not like you can just gift 5 subs and then 6 months go by and you're still there. I mean, you can count on me. It's a depreciating asset. Good old Rob to talk you through that is correct. All this. That is very true. Yes. And Brandon, thank you for the gifted sub as well. I really appreciate all the support, Brandon. Seriously, thank you. If you have to ask, it's a good indication that you've fallen in the rankings. That is right. But did we see this? Did we see this?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Duke, thank you very much for the gifted sub as well. Thank you. But I'm literally number 2. Joe 110, you're in a good position right now. I wouldn't worry about it right now. I can't be in the Chaos Zone. I need that trickle-down clout. Well, thank you, Duke, for the gifted sub. I appreciate it. Did we see this? This is kind of enjoyable to look at.
So we're watching here a tank crewman climbing out of his Namur troop carrier, and we're looking at this video as the intersection between
I'm happy to hear that too as well, Brandon.
Qassam's media ops and the Israeli desire to take selfies amid the genocide. You could see him here posing. He bends back so that he gets a good shot for his TikTok video or his dating profile, because other Israelis are really proud of these operations. Unfortunately, he was being spotted by
the Friendship Triangle.
And the camera goes a little awry there because of the backblast. We're going to see that. We've seen that all through the war. But that selfie was a costly selfie, but it really does show you the two media themes coming together. The Palestinian resistance showing us these operations. You can see him preening there for the camera. He wants the picture of the background of the devastated terrain that the Israelis call devastated terrain warfare.
John Elmer. I got to get John Elmer back on the show. It was really great to have him like in November of last year to come on the program. Pizza Core. Look at that. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs. That's very, very kind of you. First 5 gifted subs in the channel. This is the beauty about this system. Obviously, Beatscore has been sold on this program. You instantly rocket right up to the very top. You know, sometimes you tune into this show, you look at the community, like, how do I could never be an elite member. I could never be an elite member of this community. Not so. It's actually very easy. It's a very simple process. And you can just waltz right in and instantly get right up there, right up to the very tip top. So, Beatscore, thanks again for the 5 gifted subs. That's very, very cool. Very kind of you. You got hit with the triangle. Yeah, you never want to be, you want to get hit with certain triangles like in this community, but certain ones you don't want to. Certain ones you want to avoid. Any update on that conference in Toronto you mentioned? Yes. I don't have like the official info about that yet, but I can tell you there's a conference happening in Toronto. It is the Center for Social Innovation, November 8th and 9th in Toronto. And I will have an actual venue for you. I am going to be hosting a panel at this event with also former guest of the show, Justin Potter.
Wow. Okay, Rob. Seriously, wow.
Oh my goodness. Big Maskington, thank you so much for 10 gifted subs. That is so cool. I really, really, really appreciate that. Thank you, Big Maskington, one of the truly elite members of the community. One of the truly elite members of this community, Big Maskington. 10 gifted subs. Heck yeah. We love it. So once again, that's November 8th and 9th. It's going to be right after the election. A lot of stuff to talk about. And we're going to have a really cool panel with Justin Potter, maybe some other guests we're going to see with the schedules. But it should be a really great event. And if you're part of the community, you enjoy watching this show, and you want to do some kind of a IRL meetup, well, it's going to be happening. We're going to be in Toronto. Right before Remembrance Day, I swear to God, if Rob isn't wearing a poppy. Sam, I've come out before, I'm anti-poppy. Not only am I not wearing one, I'm against others wearing them as well. I am against others wearing them. You get those weird, like, Canadian, like, poppy police on the street being like, this guy's not wearing a poppy. This guy's not wearing a poppy. I'm going to be the opposite of that. I'm going to show how many people are wearing poppies. I'm going to mock them. Ripped the poppy off your chest. Get this fucking thing out of here. Although it would be an interesting experiment to get a Palestine flag colored poppy and wear that and see what kind of reactions you could provoke with that.
To talk you through all
that would short circuit brains in the Canadian nationalist reactionary. It would just short circuit their brains. They wouldn't know how to handle that. Diego, thank you very much for the gifted sub as well. And I will have more details about this panel as coming up. Also, the venue, etc. As we get closer, I'll have more info for you. That is spicy, isn't it, Kijiji? It would be an interesting experiment. What's wrong with the poppy? I'm deep in the US sauce, but not quite the Canadian sauce. It's just become this kind of way to kind of like whitewash Canada's like role as a racist genocidal colony, a supporter of violent colonialism around the world. It's become this kind of like, it's supposed to be this, oh, remember the troops thing. And it's become, I think, a harmful and toxic kind of symbol of Canadian nationalism. Palestine poppy is insanely innovative levels of liberalism. It would be interesting, yeah. It would be interesting to see what kind of reaction you could invoke with that. And to make people forget both world wars were extremely unpopular in Canada. Yeah, I mean, and World War I especially is like it's like a one of these kind of central building blocks of what we consider to be like Canadian national identity, which didn't really exist prior to that. It was still very much like burgeoning. It was still something that was like not really this coherent national identity. And World War I was kind of one of the things that helped kind of form that into a kind of tangible thing. And the poppy is a symbol of that. Rob was actually rooting for the German Empire in World War I, hence his hatred of the poppy. That's right. That's exactly why that is. Let me see if I can find... I remember very early on in this stream getting into a back and forth with that weirdo liberal guy, Dean Blundell, and having them talk about poppy stuff on like the Dean Blundell show. There's a highlight of it somewhere on this, on my list of highlights, but I don't know how to organize them properly. But you'll have to trust me that it was funny, okay? You're just going to have to take my word for it that it was very funny. My Canadian friends have been telling me about residential schools. I think they called them, and yikes, that's a big old stain on Canada that I had no idea about. Krabby Patty says, that was one of the first truths that kept me on a path to the real world. After all these stories about nice Canadians, I was a little shook. Read, sheltered from tales of abuse from revisionism in the US. I mean, yeah, that is... that's something that I have tried to, as long as I've been doing the kind of like commentary or journalism that I've done, trying to dispel this idea about like about Canadian, what it means to be Canadian, which has really, I think a lot of people in this country and around the world believe these myths about Canada. And I think growing up in like Eastern Ontario, it's hard. They try to indoctrinate you into this kind of like idea of what it is to be Canadian or what that means. And if you come from that kind of context, you have to like deprogram yourself from these ideas. And that's been, you know, something that I've tried to do in the kind of commentary that I do, is try to dispel these ideas about what Canada is, the role that Canada plays around the world, this whole idea about Canadians being like nice, this kind of like post-racial progressive paradise. It's just a complete fiction. It's just completely made up. And so is our whole culture. Like we talked about World War I being a central building block of like the fake Canadian identity. The rest of it was filled in with fucking like beer and coffee commercials. Like that's our entire culture comes from this. It's actually deeply pathetic. And it's actually an extremely racist and reactionary society, which we're seeing more and more now. I think it's becoming more and more clear to people, the actual reality of like what Canadian culture actually is. But that's one thing that I've tried to talk a lot about as long as I've been doing this kind of like commentary. Yeah, our culture is just a successful marketing campaign. That's basically all it is. It's pretty sad. It's a pretty sad state of affairs. Like, just look at all these guys now. Yeah, Tim Hortons culture. Look at all these Canadian reactionary guys being like, our culture is under attack. There's brown people working at Tim Hortons and Canadian Tire. It's like, that's our culture. a coffee conglomerate that's not even Canadian anymore. It's not even owned by a Canadian company. A coffee conglomerate at a fucking hardware store, and that's people's conceptions of our actual culture. It's so stupid. It's pathetic. That's all it is. You're like this. I'm boycotting Canadian Tire. Like, it is insane. People in Morg's chat the other day were comparing Stalin and Mao to fascists, and I had to go and get lost in the brain rot. I never forget it. It's liberal town. It's the US too. It's the same. Our culture is NFL and empty beer cans. I will say at least the United States has produced a lot of worthwhile culture. Like, and maybe you can point to some Canadian contributions to some kind of like worthwhile culture, but like, you know, it pales in comparison. But I think that's one thing as well, is that a lot of the most brilliant American culture comes like in spite of America, not because of it. Yeah, and most of that is from black culture. That's exactly right. Canada won the donut war of the 90s when our hero, Tim Horton, kicked the Yankee Duncan out of the country. Like, you might as well, like, that might as well be it. You have that concentration of capital and human resources, and you'll obviously produce good art over time. Yeah, it'll happen with infinite resources, definitely. Anyway, always something that I find very interesting to talk about, because there's still people in this country that believe these myths. They do have some ripping metal bands. They do. There's no denying that. Was there anything else we want to talk about, chat? I don't think I'm going to stick around too much longer. It is Friday. I'm going to go pick up my kid from school fairly soon. I'm going to get going, not right this moment, but sometime soon. Hot take: if the Russian Empire hadn't sold Alaska to the US, the USSR could have had a border with Canada and could have liberated Canada and the US. It'd be an interesting alternate history theory. I can't think of anything at the moment, but then again, I need sleep. Well, we all do. Do you cover stories of police brutality in Canada? Yeah, I often do, Spooky Bert. I think we've just been talking about Canada less overall, which I usually like to cover a lot, but we've been talking about it a lot less over the last year just because of what's been going on in Israel and this coming US election, which kind of takes up a lot of oxygen. This YouTube short is American culture.
I just invented a new drinking device that makes pre-gaming way more fun. It consists of a shot pouring machine made by a pump that drives air into a bottle, which then pushes liquids out via a silicone tube attached to a 3D printed base. It also has an electrically controlled valve to immediately stop the flow and a laser to detect when the glass is in position. Alright, let's start the game by pressing this button.
armed B-52 bomber flying over a football stadium and be like, this game is dedicated to the troops. That obviously does not count. That does not count. They're just showing everyone where their taxes go instead of healthcare. Give us a full Creed cover. Maybe one of these days. Maybe one of these days. We'll see. With arms wide open under the sunlight. I just hate that singing style. I've talked about it before. You know, like I've talked about I think Nickelback writes some pretty good songs, but I just don't, that singing style, I really just do not find it enjoyable. Poor era. Maybe Eddie Vedder might be grandfathered in. I guess he was the kind of like the originator of that, but like, man. Poor era. You know? I just don't like it. Chad Kroger doesn't do it half as bad as Scott Stapp, but it's still, Chad Kroger, again, I think he writes very good songs. Really. But I don't like the actual vocal style. It's a voice directly aimed at early 50s divorced dads. You know? I'm just not into it. It's not for me. If you like it, you know, that is fine. Who are you rating here? Thanks for tuning in today, folks. I gotta go. Okay, it's a lazy Friday. I'm gonna cut out a little bit early here. If anyone did want to subscribe 6 times before we go, we could do that. It is still possible. If any brave heroes want to come through and subscribe 6 times, it's still possible. Cutting out early to get Pizza Hut. Looking forward to smoking a bit of weed this evening, personally. Perhaps I might join you, Sam. Not actually physically join you, but, like, you know. So I don't think I'll be around on Monday because it's Canadian Thanksgiving and my kid's gonna be here, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that. But Tuesday I will be back, and I will be next week doing the Diet Coke and pickle and jalapeno thing. I'm gonna do that. I am gonna do it. There's still time for the 6 subs to come in. It is still possible. 10 seconds. Really, it's not. In theory, it's still possible.